Hello, welcome once again to It's a Frankly Harry podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber, so glad you could join me one more time here in the forest this week. Have a great show for you here. I just wanted to tell you real quick. So I had my 48th birthday last Thursday, and I was thinking about doing a special bonus show in celebration of that to come out end of last week or this past weekend, but I decided not to do it. I didn't really have a lot of time, and I didn't really want to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I just wanted to say, just be thankful for birthdays, be thankful for everything you have. God has blessed me richly, and I give all glory to Him, and I'm very interested in seeing where things go in the future, whether it's with this show or my new career and new interests and all these things. Otherwise, it was kind of a rainy, dreary day last Thursday, but that's all I was thinking about it. I was thinking about you, and I thought about doing an extra show, but it just didn't work out time-wise and for other reasons. Hopefully I'll be able to do some more bonus shows for you in the future, though. I have been pleasantly surprised lately, and I don't know exactly some of the Substacks statistic board and everything. I don't really know how it measures these things, but we apparently went way up on hits or ratings, I believe, since last week's show. And I don't know exactly why that is. I hope it's because of you and your interest, the humans out there, and not so much because of bots and things of that nature. Sometimes I think the stats are a little bit misleading, but I'm very pleased that there seems to be a growing interest and new subscribers, and that something is happening here on this show, and maybe you are getting enlightened and you are interested in my subjects, and so I thank each and every one of you for that, and look forward to each and every week providing a new show and a new experience for you, and I'm always thinking about new ways of making this thing better. So anyway, thank you for that. That's very pleasing, very surprising. That was probably the best birthday gift, actually, now that I think about it, this year. But anyway, let me go ahead and get into this week's topic. I really only have one main topic, maybe a concluding thought at the end here. So there was a story that broke last week, and I think it was last week that the NBA season started. Now, many of you may know what I'm about to talk about here, and I've always wondered about professional sports, and makes me wonder if they're really just a game. I think there are a lot of people involved who are there, not just playing a game, but doing other jobs, working hard. Really respect them, because they're obviously, they have to keep their performance at a certain level or they're going to be replaced. That seems to be true regardless of the sport, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, or hockey. But there was a fairly, kind of a moderately big story, but it hasn't been covered particularly well. Apparently, the FBI, I think, exposed some kind of gambling ring in the NBA. And some of you who've listened to me long enough know that I kind of wonder sometimes if professional sports are maybe not necessarily fake, but they are kind of rigged or manipulated in some way, because there's a game aspect to them, but then there's also a gigantic entertainment aspect to them, especially now, that makes them somewhat like, somewhat more akin to professional wrestling. And I know I've said this about the NFL and previous seasons, and they do things that seem to be a little bit over the top, and it seems to be more than just a game a lot of times, for lack of a better descriptor. But anyway, apparently this gambling ring was exposed within like the first day or two the league started play for this season. And, it got me thinking about a lot of things. And I won't talk much more about, whether it's fake or rigged or anything like that, or maybe I will actually, now that I'm thinking about all the different angles here. Now, I'm not trying to be like a teetotaler against gambling or anything on the show today, but I've always found, obviously, if you can gamble and enjoy yourself without being addicted to it and not getting caught up in, I guess, a certain promise of riches that may never come to fruition, that latter part could be very destructive, and there's good reason for it, for feeling that way, that is. I've always wondered, all the professional sports, we usually look at 4 of them in this country, football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. And for the longest time, they wanted nothing to do with gambling. And within the last decade or so, it somehow became acceptable to start promoting gambling sites as sponsors in these leagues, as well as, moving franchises to Las Vegas. And both of those ideas may seem fairly innocent and may give a certain relativism into the minds of a lot of people. However, I do think that there is a real danger there, and people, they might compare the situation now to, say, the Pete Rose thing in the late 80s, where gambling amongst any professional athlete or other figure who was, I think he was only a manager at the time by then, was like totally unacceptable. And then all of a sudden one day it was acceptable because apparently people can make more money having these groups as their sponsors, and the bean counters told them that they need to do this, or I don't know exactly what the scenario was, but I think that there is a real danger to it. And I've always wondered about the NBA in particular. A couple of scenarios for you. The NBA, of course, I don't know what it is. Like, I was thinking about this morning, though, too. Whenever they and hockey, they both have like similar lengths of seasons. They're almost identical in terms of length and overlap and everything like that. Both of those sports, to me, I always think about like game planning, especially in football and to some extent in baseball, because in football, whoever the quarterback is, whether they start this quarterback or that quarterback or one of them's injured or whatever, that obviously affects the game plan, right? I think the same is basically true in baseball as well, even though you're playing a lot more frequently, just about every day. But there's a new pitcher that you have to game plan for. But then I think about basketball and hockey, and, with the exception of resting guys or maybe trying out a new lineup or something like that, it's basically the same. It's basically the same guys every game, playing every 2 or 3 nights per week. And so I don't really understand how, I'm sure there is some game plan, but it doesn't seem like it would be as complicated as those other 2 sports. And I noticed over the years that the both of those sports, by the way, they always insist on playing 7-game series during their playoffs, and then their playoffs always take like 2 months. And I don't know how anybody, unless you're a diehard fan, I don't know how people keep their interest that long. But I've always noticed in the NBA, and I'm not trying to speculate or insinuate anything here, but I've always noticed that a lot of these series, a lot of teams will jump out to like a 3-0 lead. And in some cases, and sometimes it's very dominating when they get out to 3-0. And in some cases, the team that's down, all of a sudden it'll be 3-1, then it'll be 3-2. They might even bring it back to 3-3. I think that has happened before. And maybe somebody even came back to win it 4-3 after being down 3-0. But I always wonder, like, how the hell does that happen? And maybe it truly has something to do with a variable in gameplay. But I've always wondered, maybe it has something else. Maybe there's some other reason for it. Maybe there is some kind of under-the-table gambling issue going on there as to why that happens, or the league simply wants to make more money, and they can do that by stretching out the NBA Finals, for instance, a little bit longer. So I don't know. I don't know a lot about this case. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I would tell you, as a sports fan and somebody who enjoys watching sports, and I mean, I can watch, any kind of sport, really. It doesn't have to be my favorites, whether it's football or baseball. World Series is currently going on. Last night's game went 18 innings. I fell asleep, but caught the end of it. It was certainly a pretty exciting end there. But I wish people could kind of, just kind of see things, see events, see other people as they really are. I mean, yes, they can be really great distractions and very entertaining and fun to keep up with your favorite team and all that. But, I would just argue, let's, try to take the blinders off and get to the bottom of things, and don't dismiss certain things that could have an influence on people. Gambling obviously has a lot to do with money, and always pursuing the almighty dollar can be a real trap, even if gambling is not involved. So we'll see how it plays out, but I warn people all the time. I just sometimes I don't really know what I'm watching. It's hard sometimes to watch other sports. The NFL I've criticized before on here. Is it more like pro wrestling, or is it more like football now? I don't know. College football has its own issues. I just encourage people to be a little bit more discerning, I think, when it comes to all these things going on in the world, and to live life to the full, to live life at a higher level if possible. And I think there's just a lot of things that keep us from doing that. And it's not even really like a sin issue all the time. It's just that there's so many distractions going on, and people want to believe what they want to believe, and let's just take the time to slow down and take it easy. Don't drive so fast. Try to see other people and other activities as they really are, and I'm not making any accusations here, but I am. I do have to wonder. I do have to speculate a little bit when it comes to this latest news about gambling in the NBA. And supposedly the commissioner is supposed to maybe appear before Congress this week. I don't know if it's one of those dog and pony show hearings where they just argue and never solve anything. I mean, one of those, we'll just call it a bullshit hearing because that's mostly what they do up there. But we'll see how that goes. And let's see here. That's really about all that I have for today. I'll let you out a little bit early here. Before I go, I do want to wish everybody a safe and happy Halloween. I know I did a little commentary on Halloween a couple of weeks ago. I hope everybody has fun. Everybody treats each other as they would treat themselves, and treat each other's property well, that sort of thing. I think it can be a really fun evening for everybody, but by all means, be safe and be kind to one another, and enjoy this time. I mean, I know that there's maybe an evil component in some cases in Halloween, but I think it can be a lot of fun, and I hope everybody has a good time. I haven't decided if I'm going to give out candy or not yet. I was in Walmart this morning, and they were like doing like 150-piece bags of these, mini candies that everybody gives out nowadays, and it was like $20. And I'm like, that just seems like such highway robbery, as my mom used to call it. But anyway, yes, have a safe weekend, and after Halloween, I don't know, it seems like it's kind of downhill the rest of the year, and just I don't know, with the weather and all that. I think Thanksgiving and Christmas could be really great holidays, but there's other stresses involved there. Anyway, just be happy, take care of each other. Let's work together and get through these next months while somehow being productive in our lives as well. That's what I would say today. So anyway, as always, before I go, I have to tell you, sharing is caring, so I really appreciate it when you share this show with other people, whoever you meet, friends, family, the nameless folks that you may come across in any situation. I would really appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button. Would love to hear your comments and direct messages, as long as you're a human. And really appreciate if you would do that. So anyway, that's about it for this week. Didn't have a whole lot for you. Hopefully you got a lot out of this show, and thank you for joining me. Until next week, this is your host, Frank Weber, signing off from the forest here on It's a Frankly Harry podcast. And we'll see you next week. Love you. Bye.